Hello guys, hello and welcome. This is going to be the upper bracket for Group B. We aren't temporal, despite again being on temporal stream. He's never here. He's never here. He's given up. He's gone somewhere else. It's not his stream anymore. No, between Gran Turismo and Fourth Wall, it's Rob again from a couple of days ago with Zoe, CasuallyCutie. How you doing today, Casual? How you doing?
Well, I am both casting, producing, observing, being the best looking person on the stream. It's a lot of responsibility for me today, but I'm feeling good. I'm I'm glad it's an upper bracket match because maybe, debatably, maybe we'll see some higher quality of gameplay than what we saw in
some of the
series.
other games.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw, as you said, you've been doing all the production and once again doing an amazing job casting this time. You've been also alongside us watching these games, remembering the Ruddy GT series, maybe a bit crazy, that game 3. Absolutely insane kind of back and forth game. And then on the other side, we've had Fourth Wall versus Veneer. And that series, despite, it going again to 3 games, Fourth Wall looked much cleaner in that series than the two teams in the Ruddy GT series. So today, I'm going to be predicting Fourth Wall. What do you think today? What are you thinking about going into this series? Who are you predicting? Do you see any pop-off moments coming through from any players coming through here at all?
Well, I mean, based on, as I said, based on the Ruddy Gran Turismo game we saw at the start, God, it's been a long goddamn week. At the start of this week, I think Fourth Wall looked significantly more clean in their game against Veneer. Like, it felt like one of these series was very much a drama, and one of them can more accurately be described as a comedy. And when the push comes to shove, I think I technically favour the team that's a little bit more dramatic. But then again, I don't know. I think Gran Turismo have been playing very chaotically, right? If they can sort of bring Fourth Wall down to that sort of scrappy level, I can certainly see them taking a win. But I do still think the series is probably going to go towards Fourth Wall.
Fourth Wall as well, I think they've got a few more, slightly better read on what they think is meta. I mean, one of the champs that I've been hearing loads and loads about is Yone really coming up in Prio. I know Fade in the mid lane there. This, again, remember, is going to be fearless draft. We cannot keep saying that enough. So they only get one chance each team on each champ that they play. But the champs like Yone, I think Fade brings out like a Yasuo sometimes. He's very good on those melee mid laners for the side of Fourth Wall. So these are champions that I see rising up a little bit of popularity, again, especially the Yone. So I think Fourth Wall might have a little bit of a better read. On the other side, GT, I don't think they're out of this by any means. I don't think they're going to sit there and be like, okay, we had a really messy series against Ruddy, maybe we're not playing the best right now. I just think that series, there was a lot of moments where both teams wanted to drag the other down into these kind of brawly kind of style team comps, brawly kind of style fights, and both of them just kind of agreed to do it. I mean, we saw on the side of Ruddy, we saw Brickman hooking in at every opportunity. And on the other side, I mean, you've got to answer that, right? You can't just sit there and let them engage on you for free. So maybe Gran Turismo, despite not looking as clean, maybe it was sort of the circumstance of the team they were playing against that caused them not to look as clean as that. But hopefully today we do get some, some high-level League of Legends. I know both these teams, they didn't look bad. It's just the one team was far more scrappy than the other. Again, looking at the other side of things, both these, like the teams that have obviously, we're going to see them, I think, on Sunday, I think, is going to end up being Ruddy versus Near. That's another matchup I think both of us are going to be really excited to at least watch. I know he's casting that one, but those two teams hopefully going down, they're going to at least, one of them is going to come away with a victory. That's one Div 1 team gone already at this stage as well, Ruddy or Veneer. So that's a matchup that I was surprised that we're seeing in the lower bracket, and I'm surprised to be seeing the two play-in teams here. They did look decent in play-ins, both Fourth Wall and GT, but again, you kind of have that expectation of the Div 1 teams coming in with a little bit more experience. Obviously, Fourth Wall were Div 1 last split and then got relegated for various reasons, so maybe they're technically a fourth Div 1 team, but again, today, I've got to be giving it to Fourth Wall. GT, I know that I've seen these players play through a couple of these players playing in Div 3. I watched them in Div 3 finals. They are good players. Hoyes, Mixie, Mikma. We see Yepe as well. These players are really, really good, but I don't know if they actually are going to be able to keep up with the sort of the macro that was shown by Fourth Wall was just so much better, in my opinion. Yeah,
it just seemed like they were a lot more cohesive, as you said earlier, about knowing how they want to play out the game. Right now, of course, I think it was specifically mentioned on that Ruddy stream that after, I think game 1 was won by GT, that Ruddy kind of had to drag them back down to their level, right? And I mean, as we said, Briefcase Man was playing a little bit of a psycho. Ruddy was in some ways forcing perhaps some of these sloppier plays out of GT, and it'd be interesting to see how they match up against a more controlled opponent. But yeah, I generally agree. It just seems like maybe you shouldn't even be at that sort of level where you're allowing the enemy team to drag you down like that.
I mean, especially we saw the amount of fights level 2 and like just brawls all out level 2 in the bot lane. Just to me, you know, you don't usually see that level of aggression from both sides that early on in a game. So Fourth Wall didn't really show that. We saw a little bit. I think it was game 1 or game 2. I can't remember now. My memory is not too good for the Fourth Wall Veneer series. But again, there was a little bit of aggression. But again, that was more like punishing on that level 2 rather than it being like, well, we're just going to fight. Like, we're just going to go. And I wonder if, again, it was GT kind of came out of that. And they might have come out, not saying a better team, but maybe when you are fighting these scrappy fights where it's more relying on your individual outplays, these kind of, you know, out-mechanicsing the enemy team, maybe that can actually benefit you when you're facing a team that, yeah, the macro might be more solid, but maybe they aren't expecting you to be able to take these fights, and you do just take them if you want to play like that. Fourth Wall have such a good roster for Aurora Cup, like such a good roster for Aurora Cup. Like again, we saw, you know, they sadly as an org bowed out of Div 1, didn't go through the relegations. They just decided to get relegated automatically.
Unfortunately, so. I mean,
unfortunately, so we didn't get to see them compete. But they've got a great roster now for Aurora Cup, and I wonder, you know, can this team look clean? I've been watching some of the other groups. There's a few teams I'm watching from the other groups, but Fourth Wall actually for me could be like a dark horse for the entirety of Aurora Cup.
Ooh, that's a really
that's a spicy take, maybe.
Well, I mean, it will start with the first step coming through here. Teams just waiting to make it to get into draft, right? As you know how it is. Teams supposed to be ready 5 minutes before. It is what it is. You know, it's a. What can you expect?
Absolutely.
But
exactly.
looks like we'll be getting in shortly. GT will be on red side. Fourth Wall have chosen blue, I believe, for game 1. So
we're still it's 13-19.
Yes,
so as we know, there's the massive 13-20 patch that they announced on Twitter and on going on to PBE. That's obviously not important at all to us. But we're going to still be seeing, I'd assume, a lot of the similar power picks, right? You're going to be seeing stuff again. I've seen Yone creeping up popularity. Tristana is another one you have in the discussion. Oriana is a champion this patch people view to be very strong. Belveth we saw in the Veneer Fourth Wall series. Obviously, Pippi Pat on Veneer is a ridiculously good Belveth player, one of the highest ranked players on the entirety of EU West, so you'd expect that to have seen a lot of prior there. You know, we've been in mid lane Fade. He has the Akali, he has the Yone, has the Yasuo. These champs on sleeping in the top lane for Fourth Wall as well. He's going to be on. We saw him on duty a lot. Can also maybe play a couple spicy picks as well.
Yeah.
GT on the other hand, that team was so to me when we were watching them against Vruddy was all about Hoys in the bot lane, and Mixie had some really good performances in the jungle. And we'll have to like that. That's the team dynamics are very interesting because to me, Fade looked like the main carry or one of the main focal points for the side of Fourth Wall, and then on the other, and then Mikma on the other side for GT really kind of wasn't. He kind of went under the radar. Had a very quiet Ari game. You know, he performed in that game, but it wasn't like he was the sole carry. You know, he wasn't someone focusing. We'll have to see what both sides play for, given that it's Fearless Draft.
Yeah, this is going to be the only normal draft we see today. Ivan immediately banned out here by Fourth Wall. That's another one of the power picks we didn't really talk about. Champion being able to just provide so many shields, so much support for these front lane, these engaged champs like Belveth that they go through. Banned out immediately here by GT. Poppy taken off the board as well.
Cast had a decent game on the Belveth, so even though I don't think that worked his way into a win. I get game 2 and game 3 mixed up for Veneer and Fourth Wall with the Fearless Draft. With the Poppy as well makes a lot of sense as a champion that might deny a lot of what they want to be picking here. Fade, as we know, remember plays like the Yasuo, Yone, Akali, Cast. Maybe I might come through with some other dash champions, but those three really don't want to face stuff like a Poppy jungle or a Poppy top. Very also Nippler in the top lane. We saw weak side top laner had a good Ornn game, didn't have a very good Gnar game against Shihan's Jax, didn't have the greatest game on Malphite, to be honest with you, as well. So maybe they were taking away some of this weak side stuff. And Rel on the other side.
Yeah, the bans make sense. Rel is absolutely disgusting at the moment. Very good at setting up these melee dive champs as well. Denying that big go button makes a lot of sense. The Ezreal ban as well, if you want to be playing these sort of close range, needing to stick to your champions, makes sense as well. Ashe taken off the board, a little bit less engaged coming through in that bot lane.
I mean, the Ezreal ban, as we were saying, Hoys is a great Ezreal, that makes sense. Jarvan, he's premier jungler right now. You know, these Gore Drinker Shojin users, a lot of people value them very highly. But Jarvan was buffed through his items. He wasn't directly buffed as a champion, but he still does a lot of what you want to be doing as a jungler right now, lots of early aggression and synergizes super well with stuff like the Orianna. This champion is absolutely nuts at the moment. Very rarely loses many mid matchups. Maybe stuff like the Tristana could be a thing, or maybe looking to set up ganks against it, but that's it.
Ooh.
We see the Viego on the side. That is a Mixie favorite. I know this guy does play a lot of Viego. If I remember scouting him in the past, I believe he does play quite a lot of that champion, so it makes sense for him to pick this up now. I mean, here you could be looking towards maybe picking up your AD carry. There's already quite a pinch on the pool with both Ashe and Ezreal, who I believe are two of the most premier AD carries on this patch.
Yeah, Ashe Ezreal banned out. I think you want to take something. I was gonna say the Zeri coming through here, something that can get out of that Jarvan pit. Disengage from that engage. The only one that really came to mind was that Zeri, so not surprised to see that locked in here for Hoy's. Champion that sees a lot of nerfs and still just will not leave the goddamn meta. And that is something that Forceful are going to have to be careful of, consider it for the rest of the draft, that the Zeri just doesn't get to 3 items and do Zeri things on you.
I mean, it's such a good pick into Jarvan, right? There's very few AD carries left in the pool. Like, Ezreal and Zeri are the two you pick into Jarvan, unless you're going to start playing like a TK or a Thresh with a champion.
Wait, hold on.
Vi...
This is a remade draft, apparently.
Not the same draft. Just yes. Just be faster. I agree. Okay, so listen. I mean, I assume the remake is going to go back up to very quickly up to the point where that Vi was picked. We'll have to see what they actually want there. I mean, again, you should probably be taking just as I guess while we're in this little bit of downtime, they should be looking maybe to try and take stuff like another ADC for the side of fourth. We'll try and get that. Make sure the pool isn't pinched any further going into that second phase of bans and second phase of picks. So we'll have to wait and see what they end up doing instead. What I assume to be instead of Vi. Obviously, that was an accidental lock-in.
Yes, of course.
And I mean, there are like champs like Rakan still available right now. These are the premier picks right now. Orianna is still available, so I could see Fourth Wall picking that up now on Blue 2-3. We'll just have to see and wait while we go back through this draft. But I wouldn't see. In my head, I'm seeing Orianna as a great pairing with the Jarvan. Don't forget as well, Fade. He doesn't really want to go Yone Jarvan. You're starting to lock yourself into a lot of physical damage.
Yeah.
So here, if I'm Fourth Wall, as we hopefully they pick a bit.
Come on. Got it. Good.
There you go. They hopefully, I'm looking to see here maybe picking up the ADC and then picking up, I would say Orianna, but Rakan is also available. So these are the two champions I'm seeing right now that are available in the draft for Fourth Wall. You do have to remember with Fearless, you have to be a little bit careful. Okay, they're going to go Nautilus. That makes a lot of sense against, again, the Zeri, I guess. You know, you need some sort of point and click CC to deal with that champion as she zips around the map. But, okay. I might be being baited. I think, even though it's not point and click for Zeri, I just think Nautilus is kind of down in the tier list of supports. At least for me, Rel is up there, Rakan, Alistair as counters, or into those two, especially into the Rel. And then you start going down, okay, Nautilus and these kind of champions drop a little bit further. We'll have to see what GT want here, because I do think they should be maybe looking at support again. That there's no Rel available. They themselves could go Nautilus if they wanted to.
Alistair's
because of course,
quite alright here as well. Braum is going to be locking.
Braum is also a good pick. A lot of people don't necessarily like it in the whole like Braum Rakan dynamic, but overall with the draft that you're seeing, Braum makes a lot of sense.
And I mean, I guess the reason why you don't necessarily like the Braum Rakan dynamic is it's pretty difficult to deny that engage. It's hard to look for a kill onto the Rakan as well, but like you're playing Zeri. It's not it's not a lane that you need to be finding kills early on in, right? Like this lane should be just fine. I was a little bit curious why maybe they were suspecting the Braum counterpick, but that's curious they didn't opt for this Nautilus, because now it just feels like Rakan, Kaiser aren't going to have as easy of a time to find some way to shut down this snowball.
And I also think it's interesting to see that, I mean, the Ornn ban makes a lot of sense. Again, this champion, super solid. Nippler had his best game in the series versus Ruddy on that Ornn. Every other game in the series, honestly, he didn't look as good as on any other champion. I don't know what else he might be able to bring out, and maybe they are going to give him counterpick here, because I think he kind of needed it in that series and didn't necessarily get it. But again, like we see this Fiora, they don't maybe want to let this top laner sleeping. He does. I do remember. I'm trying to remember here. Like it was a while ago now. I remember looking at his account. I do think he has a good Fiora, and Nippler being weak side top, probably don't want to let that go through. Silas also indicates maybe they're looking at a Malphite pick here for the side of GT. That was a champion that Nippler played in Game 3. Lissandra gets banned.
I don't.
Interesting, they ban it because
this is a Malphite blind situation here. It does interest me, this Silas ban. I mean, obviously taking the Zerial away, right? It's pretty disgusting. But I'm really curious what they choose to pick up here. I mean, Orianna still available, still very fine. Denies the Jarvan Orianna combo. Instead, it's going to be the Shen.
They're going to go Shen.
Wow.
Shen. in 2023, Expetu boycotted this champion. GT simply doesn't care. It goes against the Swedish, not Swedish, is he Finnish? Expetu? That mastermind of Shen says boycott the champion. Nippler says no. I want to touch this Lissandra ban. Doesn't make that much sense to me because I think there's a lot left in the pool that destroys Lissandra in lane, like Azir and Oriana are not lanes you want to be playing, and I guess it gives setup for the Viego. But we're going to see this Rumble does do a really well into this Shen matchup. Just a disgusting champion in general. I think it's completely broken. In mid lane, I wonder what fourth we're going to round out their comp with. Jace would be kind of. I mean, I guess it makes sense with the Kai'Sa poke. I feel like Oriana, it's shocking to me that I'm not seeing Ori picked, but it's going to be Jace. And now we'll have to see what Migma wants in the mid lane. Yone is still available to him. That is one of his specials. My favourite champion, of course.
I think it's going to be the thing.
Raise your dongers. There's so much stuff he's already... I mean, there's so much stuff left available. Tristana's available. Oriana's available. You've got Ari as another one that's available. Migma had a decent game on that one, right? Where we played... I think he played the more utility build, but still... I think he's going to go towards this. I'd be surprised at Cassio. Okay, so Ari does get locked in. There's a lot of picks here that are considered very strong in the current meta that have actually fallen through this draft, which maybe that's a product of Fearless draft. Maybe they're a bit concerned about picking all of the power picks now and then having nothing left in the other remaining 2 games, maybe. But other than that, it's interesting drafts coming out from both sides because Jace Jarvan is not that classic of a mid-jungle 2v2.
Yeah. I mean, obviously there's sort of... I think the idea that, you don't want to overload on magic damage, you got a Rumble, you got a Kai'Sa. But first of all, you could have not picked the Rumble, even though it's good into the Shen, right? But you could have not picked the Rumble. Second of all, it's not like anyone you particularly care about is going to be super stacking magic resist on GT, right? Like Shen would obviously pick up some magic resist, probably will anyway into sleeping in this lane. But I still think Oriana just provides so much synergy with Jarvan and with Rumble as well, right?
Absolutely. I mean, Nippler's currently hovering Smite. I hope this guy doesn't end up having Smite, because that would be interesting unless the overlay is broken. But either way, I hope they haven't made those runes wrong, and then we have to wait again and when we get back in another game. But either way, it's interesting because Kai'Sa, yes, she is magic damage. Yeah. Yes, you know, she was played poke, but she did get a number of nerfs directly and indirectly to herself over the last few patches. The static nerf is obviously one that is quite just a big nerf. It's down like 150 now damage on minions. It's just not that good of an item for pushing waves anymore. That's why Kai'Sas have migrated over to this Umbral Duskblade build, which despite giving you that Q upgrade very early, personally you lose a lot of I think you lose quite a bit of DPS. You go into kind of a power trough until you start spiking again at 4 items.
Like buying that build because it feels really good to push Q. I think that's exactly it does feel very good. It does make your monkey release dopamine chemical, but yeah, I think you lose out as the game goes on with a build like that.
I just think that you spike really hard and then you fall into this horrible power trough as an ADC, and you don't until you start getting that W evolve, which again with that static build it was often Nash's second, so you're getting that W evolve really early, and it's just super obnoxious the amount of control where she was usually combined with stuff like Jace mid lane, like Maokai in the jungle, saplings, shock blasts, void seekers. Those 3 together just mean that anyone who steps up just gets murdered. So I don't know how I feel about maybe going towards this Jace, because your front line here is going to end up being that J4, who is a lot less of a sort of, you know, consistent all across the damage, all across the team fight kind of threat with the, like, you know, when the Maokai would usually come in and, you know, he's got that ultimate, can lock a lot of people up, generally disrupts a lot of team fights. Jarvan this game, he doesn't really have anyone he can lock down. He's going to have to... If he's jumping in, is Zeri going to be locked down? No. Is Ari? No. It's very hard to play Jarvan into those 2 champions. Viego is an option. Shen should never be the one being focused by fourth wall unless it's like he runs in. He's going to be looking to use that standard side to kind of keep Zeri or Ari alive, and Braum doesn't really mind.
Apologies, I'm both doing production and trying to observe and cast at the same time. I will fix this overlay shortly, but just while we do, what do you think the win conditions are for these 2 teams, right? Because I think GT here, I mean, they got late game assurance to Zeri, right? Zeri Braum, pretty devastating in the team, right? Like, sure, you got the Jace, you got Kai'Sa for outrage, but as we said, maybe not going to be able to provide as much poke as they need to displace this GT lineup. How do you think...
I mean, you look at this game. You go back and you think Jace Kai'Sa as a combo has been so dominant over the past few months, but you don't necessarily have the thing that I think really held that comp together, which was the Maokai in the jungle. So the fourth wall comp is a little bit just a little bit less synergistic. Although you do have Jarvan Rumble, so that is a disgusting combo. You do have generally decent lanes here. I think you might see if Fourth Wall has better macro, as we seem to have seen, they might be able to just get leads through their map movements and just run this game over. But again, Gran Turismo, they have all had good games on a number of their champions here, right? I think Yepe had a great Braum game 1 against Ruddy. I think Mixie had a great Viego game in that game as well, game 1 against Ruddy. So personally, whereas I would usually favor, the team that maybe has better macro, the team comp that also maybe is a little bit easier, like, you have Poke with Jason Kaiser, and then you have this engage, you have this huge teamfight ultimate with the Rumble. I'm giving this this is so difficult for me because I think Jarvan has such a hard time to play here. I'm gonna say I like GT. Only because I think for how they want to play, I think this comp is really, really good for them. It's going to be able to create a lot of chaos the way that we thought they would like to play, at least coming out of that series against Ruddy. So they have a lot of ability to play these fights really dynamically with the mobility coming out from Ari, as well as the sort of just impossible way to pick this Zeri down. Like pick this Zeri is going to be very hard. You don't have Nautilus, which they were hovering, but Full don't have it. So I think I prefer GT to play GT's comp. My only question is this top lane, Nippler. He did not look good in those second 2 games against Ruddy, despite them picking up at least the win in the game 3. And I want to see how he does on a champion like Shen, because this champ, the issue with him in organized play is that when he leaves the lane, often his lane opponent gets such a stupid lead from plates and from just minion XP that it's hard for the Shen to really enter that lane once he stand asides once. So just have to see if Forkle can exploit that this game.
We certainly will. We're not going to see anything particularly fancy happening at level 1. We will see overlay updated, cross fingers. Hey, there we go.
Yeah.
Look at that. I did that in like 3.5 minutes during that pause. But yeah, nothing really going down level 1. We do see junglers starting on the opposite sides of the map. I mean, understandably wanting to pass away from the Shen lane in the top lane. I mean, Shen can set Viego up pretty well, but Rumble should have the run of this one early on. Whereas we see Cast wanting to pass up there, try and influence that matchup.
I mean, if you can get this Rumble ahead and you get this Rumble, towards his item power spikes, get those levels on him, he's going to be just absolute terror to the side of GT with that equalizer. So it does, again, Cast, he could look for some cheesy stuff maybe in mid-level 3. Ari's obviously a lot harder to lock down post-6, so trying to get something going in mid would also be pretty beneficial for them. Getting Jace a lead as well would be very frustrating for the side of GT to face. But overall, I imagine Mixie will probably just look for a full clear here and wait and see where this J4 is going to end up appearing, because if you are Viego, you do want to get that golden shoe from those camps. You don't really want to be sat there and sin ganking level 3, so we'll have to see where he decides to go. And
I think it is really important for Cast to find this stuff early. We mentioned that Jarvan's going to struggle this game. We'll definitely struggle once those level 6 come through, right? Once that Sand United comes in from Nippler, once Mikama manages to get that Spirit Rush online, the ganks become even harder than they already are. I mean, it's already pretty difficult to get onto Hoys, but it's really important that I think Cast finds something else, like signs something in this early game, or yeah, we'll be pretty miserable for the entire match.
I mean, the only thing I'd say here is that a point where I thought he could look for, again, was this Shen, and Carrying the Wave is already crashing into Nippler, so this Jarvan is not going to be able to try and force a dive top lane early here. And so right now, GT are just are going to be happy to sort of farm this out, because they know from that series against Ruddy, again, they'll know where their weaknesses lie. We saw Nippler struggling, so they're probably just going to sit there and say, listen, man, you're weak-sided permanently this game. We're going to cover our bot, who Hoys, I think, had a great series against Ruddy. So they're going to be playing around their ADC, their Icelandic ADC there in the bot lane. Overall, GT are going to be happy if they can just sort of get through this game, get to their level 6, and then look for some crucial team fights around a couple of objectives, and be able to abuse that Stan United, maybe the Shen holding someone on side and then joining that fight. Fourth Wall, on the other hand, I mean, they do have this poke comp. They do. Oh, as Hoys is knocked up, but nothing's going to come from it. They have this poke coming out from Jace Kaiser, but they still are going to have to find ways of shutting down champs like Zeri and Ari. It's going to have to be on the support coming out of Fourth Wall from the Rakan. The Jarvan's going to find it very, very hard. Mixie is going to really struggle, I think, this game, maybe to lock down both of them with the quickness. So I think it's got to be if Rakan can have the game of his life, to be honest here, and actually lock down this AD carry and mid laner coming out of GT.
Yeah, but then you're going up into an instant taunt coming out from Nippler. If you overstep just that little bit, you get caught out by a single charm as well from Migma. It does have to be some very fancy footwork coming out from Mixie this game.
Yes, he's going to have to look for flank angles for looking interesting approaches. He does get a double knock up here.
Level
for a
advantage
2v2,
though to
but-
Hoyes. Level 4, level 3 dashing in, procking up those concussive blows. Not going to come through. And with Cast in the area, maybe things are going to turn sour for GT. They're certainly looking for it. Spotted on the ward. Ghost blown by Hoyes. Flash. Knock up. Goes wide. Mixie chunked out super low. Ignite ticking down. First blood to Hoyes in the bot lane.
I think we've seen this one before. Hoy seems to pick up so many first bloods for the side of GT, and this going over to the Zeri is a disaster for Forthwall.
No,
as
and it
Mixie is
looks
looking top
like
here on Sleeping.
Sleeping, caught out, stunned up, forced away. Niffler going to feel happy about that one. Maybe even going to be able to set up a freeze in front of their own turret. Going to force Sleeping back. But yeah, as we said in the bot lane, right, Hoyes, that's such an illegal first blood. Real overforce there by Mixie. I know we said Cast had to get something going early on, but just once Hoyes are ghosted away, it seems like the play is already dead, right? Once Java gets spotted on that ward, and the overforce just ends up so punished, even flashed forwards for it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you've just got to go, okay, we managed to get that. We managed to get that ghost. That we'll have to just take it. There's nothing more we can really get out of this. Mixie overextending massively. And with Rakan without flash, it's going to now be very hard for him to maybe even look for plays going forward for the next, few minutes, next 5 minutes. Overall, but this Zeri, as the game is now paused, this Zeri, we have seen many over the past year. Zeri was only released, I think, January this year, or was it last year? I've lost track of time.
Last year, look, I'm trying to imagine trying to remember how annoyed I've been by it. It had to be last year, right? Because the whole Zeri use.
Either way, she's not been out in the game for very long. The number of Zeri moments I have seen in organized play where she legitimately 1v9s a game and just kills everyone and gets a pentakill, it's utterly ridiculous. So this champion picking up this first blood is probably the absolute worst start you could see for coming through for Forthwall.
Yeah.
Because Hoy's great ADC, he's going to be able to take this kill and maybe even run with it. Yes, he's down in CS a little bit now, but that can just come from the pressure, that this Rakan can maybe put you a little bit scared of stepping up early until you do get, 6 and you can start running them down. GT, they've managed to get their main carries, some of their favorite champions. I don't see how, if you're going to give them these champions then kills for free, I don't see how you can really pred anything other than maybe GT running with this game already. I know it's only 1-0, but Hoyes is so good on this champion.
Rob, have you considered Sleeping has a 10 CS lead in the top side? So I mean, I know things are pretty even, right? Against Chen, yeah, he really does care about that advantage.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously Sleeping, right, is playing Rumble, is going to automatically push the wave when they look to trade, but I know, I feel like they're, as we said earlier on, there might have had to have been a dive opportunity early on, and just crashing the wave that too early. Cast is looking to try and make something happen up towards the top side. Dragon answered on the cross map here for Mixie.
And they don't even go for it, so again, Forthwall are losing out here. The Dragon going over to the side of GT, who does have a comp that, again, is not going to be too scared to play in these late-game team fights. Giving that Dragon over means that even if Forthwall manage to wrestle some control back in this game and pick up the next couple, there's still a timer for Zeri here. And she's going to be able to get to those item breakpoints, even if Forthwall wrestle back control. So, great Dragon pick up by Mixie there, just soloing that out. And they don't even punish on the top side. So Forthwall are going to have to start looking for something soon, I think, because these team fights, like this Ahri, she's going to be going this cooldown reduction build, I imagine. She's going to be going towards the Everfrost, maybe a Cosmic in there, Horizon Focus, Zhonya's just cooldown reduction, charms on charms on charms. She's got champions she's setting up with those charms. She has Zeri, she has Viego. It's not like she has to be a major source of damage here, so unless Yeppe's caught out here.
Oh, taking a bit of a bad back. Does have that unbreakable shield. And that's something I want to comment on as the game goes on as well, right? We look at this Kai'Sa, we look at this Jace, they do have a significant amount of poke. And they will do for the first 20 minutes, I think. And then Yeppe will start getting levels in that unbreakable, right? And it's sort of been a little bit of a reverse in the ideology around Braum, I think, recently, right? It was seen as someone that's stylistically quite weak to poke, but when you do manage to get that Emax coming up, you're going to be able to eat up those accelerated shock blasts, eat up those Void Seekers from Kai'Sa, right? And you can only do that a limited amount of times, sure, in a fight, but as the game goes on, she's going to get tankier and tankier, and this poke angle that maybe Force will have to look towards, because they haven't found these early leads, becomes harder and harder to materialize.
I mean, again, the only hope here for their team fight is they get the poke down, they get an equalizer that just kills everyone with the Jarvan ult. That is where you're looking at here for the fourth wall composition, but that is going to be very hard. So they need to this Herald fight. This could be where GT throws a lead that they have garnered at least across with the roles they need it. Shen is going to be available for Stan United, and he's running away right now in bot lane.
They have numbers advantage at the moment as well on this Herald. We see there Grave Past having to catch that wave in the top lane. It looks like Fourth Wall just going to give this one up, give up the tempo. With Shen being off vision, no teleport for sleeping, there's no angle to contest.
Absolutely. Now, the positives here, I guess, is that Sleeping is getting a big lead in this top lane. It's now extending out to 30 CS. This will be closed down a little bit by these minions crashing into the turret, but there is going to be a lead in this top side here. But again, this is Shen, right? The current state of Shen is that he's there. He isn't there. He's not going to be to solo kill in lane like Shen used to be able to maybe do. He's looking there to support his team. So yes, he's going to be going down CS, but he won't really mind too much. And so yeah, with this gold, like, it looks very even, but where the gold is distributed right now, at least it's mostly onto that Zeri for the side of GT. There's only been one kill in this game. It's kind of hard to sit there and talk into too much more specifics, where this game has kind of, compared to GT's previous games against Ready, this game is ridiculously slow.
What we wanted to see out of them a little bit more, right?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit more control, but I think sometimes there's you can almost play too slow and not push advantages you could be looking for. I mean, there's a reason why, people compare leagues like the LCK to the LPL, and they say the LPL is much better because they just sometimes just take these fights and go. When you see in games like this where, yes, we can say GT's composition late game is favored, maybe, they have this Ahri, they have this Zeri. Zeri is going to be very strong, but do you not feel like, you want to be at least getting some advantages? Because it's not like Fourth Wall can't look to win those.
You want them to pick up a Herald or something in the early game.
Oh, yeah, something like this, maybe.
I do think they are willing to play, as we see here. Zeri over the wall, Mitsuki gets the first one down onto Gus. Triple charm though, shield comes through, Stand United nullifies any sort of playback. GT get one for free, maybe looking to set up a dive here as well. Mikma in the area. Grave Past, maybe Grave Future, does manage to find the ult out, but the Charm connects, cleanse the way instantly, but it's going to be a number of plates over to GT. And they're not even going to lose anything on the cross map beyond maybe a plate or two in the mid lane.
I mean, that was kind of a bit of a Caster Curse moment. I wanted GT to try and accelerate the game and make some aggressive plays, and they do just that. Fourth Wall are being really greedy here.
Stunned up, teleport in just to deny any further dive, but the Herald Charge still going to get through. Sleeping with that equalizer. Trying to make the maths work. Mitsuki going forward, shut down. Once again, the reverse Caster Curse comes through. Unnecessary death. Fourth Wall gets something back.
I think Mixie, I mean, I understand what he's going for there. He wants to try and if he gets that reset or gets the knock up, then manages to ult on top of the Kai'Sa, she is just dead. That's just, suddenly from a very controlled game, we've gone into this chaotic kind of game that we were experiencing when it was Ruddy versus GT. Like, they go for this fight bot lane, they pick up a kill. For some reason, Fourth Wall, they decide to walk back to defend a turret that they cannot stand underneath. Like, that is really egregious from Mixie and Grave Pass there to actually walk back when it's not like the Ahri isn't roughly still in the area. There was still a Jarvan on vision in the lane, so a bit of disrespect. But they do manage to turn it back. Mixie does get picked up there, does end up falling to the Kai'Sa as well, which is a target you want, but Cast is caught.
Bit of a scrap.
You just get away.
We'll make the way out. Yeah, and if you have a look at where the gold is situated on these two teams, Sleeping is the only thing keeping Fourth Wall in the game.
Jace has some gold. Jace has a little bit.
Yeah. Well, but Jace is fine actually as well. Yeah, but look at that gold lead in the jungle. It's about 1k, 500 gold lead in the bot lane as well. So now set up for this dragon. Chunk low, 1.6k health left. Cast isolated in the pit. Mitsuki, everyone engaging on them, force the flag and drag their way out. Mikma chunked out over the wall again, steals it. Cataclysm onto 3. Jace picks up the kills, flash forwards. Mikma will fall as well, but Mitsuki is getting the resets. How much more can Viego do? Not that much. In the end, it's a 3 for 2 on the Dragon's Fourth Wall.
And I think maybe, they just didn't think Jace would flash back in. He flagged and dragged out of the pit. Looked like that smite was going to easily go over to Mixie. Jarvan just goes, no, this is mine. I'm going back in. Flashes, gets that smite still. Ends up getting a huge cataclysm onto 3 members at least. The damage there was just absolutely insane. And I think GT, a little bit of disrespect in how they were. The fact that Jarvan against this comp is going to able to get such a huge cataclysm in the Dragon Pit is crazy to me. That Hoist could not pop off in that fight at all, as Mixie is dancing with a little bit of death, but does get out thanks to the grand entrance, which is more like a grand exit. Either way, Mixie, he's picked up 4 kills. I highlighted this a little bit before the game start, that I think, you know, Mixie and Hoyes were the 2 main members I looked at on GT in their victory versus Ruddy, who seemed to put in a great performance, especially Hoyes, but Mixie as well on the Viego looked great. And they are showing up at least to some degree in this game. They have to be a little bit careful about making plays like that, though, around objectives.
They certainly do. They certainly do. I mean, Viego with 4 kills, still, like, I still don't think he felt that bad about it. 2 kills over the Grey Fast, obviously, still feels kind of bad. In the end, it's just a little bit of tempo loss. It's not like we still said we favor GT at that fight. And surprisingly enough, I think they went for that play despite Nippler not having that Stand United crucial cooldown unavailable.
And you can't really be doing that when the whole point of weak siding this Shen is that you use that Stand United for these fights where you're going to be able to turn them using that massive shield he does provide to one of his carries, and not playing around what is one of your win conditions for these early fights is pretty pretty rough. You kind of need to be doing that. I mean, however, we say Kai'Sa got those 2 kills. This isn't going to be the AP Kai'Sa, right? This is going to be that AD. It's going to be Kraken. You assume Kraken to something like Navori. So it isn't going to end up being that massive W poke, which is just so obnoxious to play against when you can never reach her. She is going to have to walk up and auto-attack the champions on GT, which is a little bit of a risk for Grey Pass this game against the kind of CC that there is going to be coming out of the Ahri. There's a Viego stun, Shen, Taunt, Braum, Q, knock up, things like this. So we're going to have to see here if Grey Pass can, with these kills, put him in his back pocket and manage to make return on that investment. But this Viego is getting fed. He is going to a much more carry-orientated build as well. Blade of the Ruin King, what looks like could be a Trinity Force coming through as well. Shen going in, but he's a level down.
Flash away, Fade looking for the kill. To the skies, comes through, transform, blast to the face. I think wants to get the taunt before that last auto came out from Fade on the turret, but slightly mistimed things, ends up falling for it. Now on the cross side of the map, once again, no Stand United available. Flash, taunt onto 2, knocked up, Equalizer lands onto a couple. Jeppe, punked so low, will end up falling. Nisky will get that Herald, but Hoyes will lose their knife. Make them will lose their life as well. And just a cavalcade of errors from GT ends up with 4 dead.
And yes, they have leads on there. They had leads on Hoyes and Mixie, but it doesn't matter if your Shen falls, you don't have that Stand United. And, I mean, what I'm sorry, but what are they doing? They don't have that Shen ultimate to be able to contest make those numbers advantages occur across the map. Mixie's stun does go wide, and Fade is so strong right now on this Jace.
Oh, that is disgusting what I just saw there. 2 items complete. We said Mixie was somewhat the carry, maybe one of the shining hopes for GT here, but just gets absolutely obliterated by Jason that play.
And I mean, he's going to a carry build, right? As we were saying just before the fight broke out, Blade, Trinity. You're not seeing these kind of Kraken builds, maybe with then like going into Trinity and then a bit tankier, maybe there could be a Black Cleaver coming through, maybe a Sterox DD. He's going to be going Trinity, and you imagine hopefully get some more tanky stats soon, because you just see how squishy he is versus just that Jace alone, who is now 4-0, got that Eclipse, finished that Man Immune, working towards the Sereldas as well. So that Jace is incredibly strong now. That's not looking good for side lanes here. As Sleepy is caught.
Do you see a collapse? A lot of flame special damage coming out, but no Equalizer means no possibility to turn. Hoyes picks that one up for themselves.
I really hope they do give that to Hoyes. He is going to be one of the main threats here. Mixie being chest out of his own jungle, and Mikma needs to use the Spirit Rush.
Spirit Rush. Mixie still looking for more though, but Fade is in the area. This Jace Shock Blast just goes wide. Root up, Grey Pass, cleanse the way. The charm comes out, dash forwards. Killer Instinct, not going to be quite enough. The Shock Blast just tickles the heels of Mikma. Cast looking for more. Flash away by the mid laner for GT. Cast, maybe the victim here. Forced to flash out. Still want to continue though. Hepe with the knock-up. Maybe bitten off more than they could chew. Don't want to push Boulder any further forward.
So this will be dragged to 4th wall. I think that if you are GT and you're looking at this game, you can't be... The Herald is so disastrous, and 4th wall has just taken complete control. Now, right now, like, it would look like GT had, had everything they needed. They had this Shen able to support this Zeri and this Viego, who were both getting very strong. They had control over, you know, parts of the map, but just one little misplay. Suddenly, Forthful, they've taken this dragon. They forced Mixie out of his bot side jungle here. Migma having to dash away as well. Yes, Sleeping fell on the top side. But this Forthful have gone from being, oh, you know, this early, you know, the GT looking like they have some early control, and it's just all gone. It's all gone.
All gone.
They're
Fade,
now
Fade
4,000 gold in the lead.
You know what that 4,000 gold is situated?
Oh my god!
It's a 3,000 gold in. I can't count. I can't do maths, but still, Fade is disgusting ahead. Must have picked up a couple of plates on side as well. Certainly a full item, maybe full item and a half ahead over Migma.
And
it's going to be monstrous in these fights. Now we see the engage, Charm, knock up. Equalizer goes down, doesn't quite get the right angle onto Hoist. Shield comes through, but it won't be enough to save the rest of the team. Cataclysm is there. Migma now teleports in. Cast will be the sacrifice, but still 2 for 1 to Forthful. Now Fade is in the area. Migma dashes forward, splashed away by Grave Pass from the Charm. Fade misses the blast, still looking for more. Will not be able to find it.
I mean, again, in the end, Yepe and Mixie falls, but Hoyes does pick up a couple kills there, so it isn't like GT aren't going to go, okay, it was a 2 for 2, that's fine, you know, we'll take it. We end up managing to kill that Jarvan and Rumble. Again, there is a chance here for Hoyes to do something, but what looked like a lot of control, again, is gone. And Forthful just force a fight. They just force a fight in mid lane. There's nothing to really fight over. Baron isn't up yet. You know, it's another 30 seconds. Herald being spawned here by Mixie just to get out of his inventory before it falls, I assume. But there's no objective. Forthful are just going, listen, you push up too far in mid, we're going to engage on you. And we do have Rumble Jarvan Rakan. We do have a lot of ability just to look to one-shot someone. GT have to be so aware that Forthful will just go again.
Looking for it, can't quite find it. Herald charge will just about go through. Just a chunk on mid lane tier 1 was what you paid with 4 members life for. Charm connects onto Great Pass. Knockup comes through. Dash forward. Spirit Rush is there. Charm comes through. Stun is down. But in the backline, Mixie is just taken down. Nippler teleports in, but cannot find anything at all. Sleeping. Proto belts forwards. Hoyes is dead. Migma is dead. And I mean, despite a good pick onto Grave Pass, can't convert it. Can't even kill the AD carry.
That's such an overextension. The one champion that's cleaning up these fights for you, if Viego is having to dive in like some psychopath into the backside, you know, the backline of Forthful, my brain completely went there, is Hoyes. And Hoyes didn't have ultimate for that fight. He died just before it came up. If you do not have Zeri's ultimate, how is she cleaning up these fights? She's going to be jumped on. She's going to be run down. She doesn't have that movement speed coming out from her ult. She isn't going to be able to kite out the Rumbles, the Jarvans. It's absolutely insane to me. Yes, she managed to get some lockdown onto Grave Pass. They knew the cleanse wasn't available. It only just come back up now.
I don't think Mixie had a good angle onto the Kai'Sa.
Exactly. They don't have any way of getting to her in the end. And then all the Jarvan has to do is fly into Hoyes' face. Sleepy also then runs into his face as well. And this Zeri, who has a lot of the gold for GT, has no chance of doing anything.
Indeed. And once again, it's maybe this lack of diligence we're talking about. We saw in the game GT versus Ruddy, right, the series. Not playing around these ultimate cooldowns. Nippler didn't have the stand United available, had to teleport in. And as we said, no lightning crash for Hoyes. It just feels like such an itchy trigger finger coming out here from GT.
Maybe it's desperation plays. They feel they have to make something, get some kind of pick because they're falling out of this game. And I can understand it, but sometimes you just have to recognize that you just don't have the abilities available. You don't have the ultimates online that mean you can go for those kind of plays. As Forthful right now using this Baron, sieging up on 2 lanes. Nippler on this Shen, he is absolutely gold starved. He's got an Abyssal Mask, a Giant Spell, and some Yeezys. I mean, it's just not happening. Like this Shen pick, which was taken blind, did surprise me, given that you're basically saying, I don't care, even though I'm against the top laner that can play carries, I don't care about playing this weak side, it's fine, I'll just go down 100 CS.
To be fair, I think they were fine in that weak side. As you see, Migma almost falls. Demonic Embrace survives on single-digit health, I believe, double-digit health. But the poke is now insane. Especially, you can almost count the equalizer as pseudo poke in these sieges, right? You get hit by a shock blast, get hit by an equalizer as well. You're probably going to go down, as we saw there. Almost ended up falling. Just so insane with Portal. Now they found the engage. Snap onto Hoy's. Burst down. Does get the lightning crash, but will fall before any stacks come through. Now, of course, we have reset here from Mixie, but so squishy. Shutdown does go over 1,000 gold. Mixie is now the most trusted champion in the game. Gets another kill. Triple kill, but it's not going to be enough. Sleeping will end up getting a double kill. In the end, GT do make the base defense work. Overforce onto the turret. 4 for 3.
And Fade dropping there is so bad for Thoughtful. Like Mixie, remember he can take your form. He's gonna come in. He's gonna take your abilities. He's gonna murder you. He has your items. If Fade falls to Viego, Viego is going to become the strongest champion on the Rift.
It's 2,000 gold swing when Viego possesses Fade. I think. Look, I've been playing a bit of Jace recently. Am I good at it? Debatable. I won't uplead the fifth on that one. But when I play that champion and I get a little bit fed, I often have a tendency to just dive in with that to the skies, right? When you get a little bit too hypey, you can just go a little bit too hard, as we saw there. And Fade did not need to die under that under that inhibitor turret, but did. Ends up falling for it, ends up losing the fight for GT. They have brought themselves that little bit more time, but they're still 8,000 gold in the hole.
I mean, 8,000 gold is such a mountain to climb over, especially when you've got so many tools on the side of Thoughtful with the J4 and the Rakan of just forcing fights. I mean, you can kind of see here how GT might want to end up playing. Like, you have this reset, these resets in your mid and jungle champs. You have this Zeri who can maybe put some damage down. Despite Hoy's falling in that fight, he did do a decent chunk. Like, he did enough damage to at least make that fight go in favor. But look at Hoy's health.
I just don't think they have the health bars to soak up this engage coming up from Thoughtful. Right, Shen is not tank enough, Brom is not tank enough, and when they don't have a turret defending them, this is just going to be what happens. Heavy forced to run away, Mitsuki flashing out. Nothing really used for Portal besides that equalize. They did have to use quickness as well, but they're going to claim up both these inhibitors. So difficult for GT to contest.
I mean, this is the one issue with GT, is that they don't have the best engage. They're looking for some sort of Ahri dashing forward with Charm, Shen maybe a taunt flash, Braum having to flash forward. You can't really go in if your Mixie's like as engaged with your stun on Viego. So GT right now, like, they are really struggling to look for any kind of fight. They're waiting for Thoughtful to make a mistake on an engage, as Yepe is very low.
They don't even need to engage. You can just see how much these shot blasts are doing. They're bouncing onto Nippler. Gonna force him out. No Braum needs to fight so much harder. Hoy's chunked to a 2/3 health off the shock blast. It is. Fade is doing disgusting work in this game, and maybe not gonna quite walk into Miski's grasp. But yeah, it's just it's pretty disgusting when the team's hitting your inhibitor and there's just nothing you can do about it.
And this game, we have to just go back and say GT looked like they had some control, and it was just a snowball effect of Nippler dying 1v1 on side lane, trying to go for a play that he really didn't need to try and look for. Then he's not alive to survive the Herald fight, and then Thoughtful just turn on the gas and they just take over the entire game. And I mean, if you are GT now going into game 2, which there's always going to be a game 2 and a best of 3. No matter, even if you somehow pull out this win, you cannot be happy with how this game swung completely out of your favor.
Yeah, it feels like to me, if you don't mind me saying, GT, it feels like when they had like the tempo, when they had the plan on their side, they did look unstoppable. But when the second it fell out,
oh my God,
they just ended up doing things like that. Mixie already dead. That's the jungler burst down when the Baron spawns. But it feels like the second they lost tempo, they didn't know how to play things a little bit calmer, play things slower, wait for their cooldowns to come up, and it ended up costing them this game.
Yeah, there's only 1 or 2 crucial fights in this game that have just not gone the way of GT, Gran Turismo, and they've just struggled here to really get back into it. There's the fight on the Herald and the fight where Zeri didn't have ultimate. And if those are your 2 mistakes, after this game, you're going to be going, listen, guys, like, we can't be doing this. We if we do lose this, our Shen, which they can't play it again, so it really matter. It is Fearless Draft, but we can't be making these mistakes where we're not playing around our crucial team fight onwards in a crucial team fight. And again, Thoughtful, yes, it could be GT might want to try to put their foot on the brake a little bit and maybe slow the game down, but Thoughtful haven't allowed that, right? They just engaged in mid lane, for example. They just engaged in the turret, and they don't really care because eventually they're going to break the space in with the amount of poke. And Fade is so strong, they've got to look for him. He is very low.
Assassination flashed away. Mitzi will not find it. Standardized, it comes out, still will fall, and now everyone's caught up in the Cataclysm. Hoys is dead. Hepe not gonna be able to find anything. Will end up falling Niffler as well. There's no damage left. Sure, both carries from Force will end up falling, but it's gonna be almost a complete wipe on GT.
So right now, this is base defense. We're playing Sanctum now. This is going to be Migma trying to keep the base alive, as there is Baron Bus available on Cast and on Mixie. So Migma's just got to somehow kill these minions. At least take as long as he can to get these minions down. Just make sure nothing happens. But he's going to get knocked up. He does have flash.
Will end up surviving. But Cast, Mixie able to put down so much pressure on these turrets. Now Respawn are coming in. Charm will connect. Cast will fall, but it's a little bit of a sore prize. It's not going to be what wins you the game when you've got no turrets left standing on the map.
And if you are GT, this is the fear of Fearless Draft, is you picked up some really strong champions for yourself. We know in their previous series, Yepe had a good game on Brawl, Mixie had a great game on that Viego, Migma had a decent game on the Ari. And we know Hoys can pilot, the Zeres, the Ezreal's Champions List, which you assume he's never going to get the Ezreal anyway, but still. Now you don't have the ability to play this comp again. You've got to find something else to play into the side of Forthwood. If this was your best bet, game one, and you just throw it off a couple of fights, what do? Yes, you can say, well, we should clean up. We should clean up our play a little bit. We shouldn't be playing order, etc., etc., etc. But it doesn't really matter, does it, if you don't have the champions that you want to play available to you? So right now, they've got to do their best to stabilize and try and look for some miracle team fight. They have managed to pick up Fade a couple times now, one after another. It's not like Mixie doesn't have damage. He is 3 items. It's not like he can't maybe look for a flank, but if he gets caught, it might just be game over.
Okay, where are
There's
they flanking
no Nexus
from?
turrets.
I'm asking you. I'm gonna
Their own base. Their own base.
Where are they? Where's the flank? Where's the flank, Rob? I want you to circle.
Right.
We've got the little caster tool out where you can put the red circle. There's no angle for it. Epe.
J forward. Guardian as Angel as well means that he can just jump in with Reckless Abaddon and just get rezzed. So
yeah,
GT have to look for something. They're just getting poked down and just absolutely murdered.
Dash forwards Charm does not find anything from Migma. Spirit Rush has been blown. Everfrost will not connect either. Forceful just going to be able to walk away. Going to be able to slowly take down the Flash. Charm connects. Sniper's by Grave Pass. Will not end up falling lost to the Cataclysm. He doesn't give a damn. Fade gets one on the side. Double kill to the carries. Only one left standing is Migma. Will find one back onto Gravecast, but will not save the game. Everything has fallen. The Charm will land, but Fade will not fall. Maybe looking for the dive, comes through, Cast picks that one up, ends up falling, doesn't mean a thing. Force will claim game 1.
And I mean, what an absolute... I mean, it was not... Okay. Once they got control of the game, Forthful looked unstoppable. Completely unstoppable. Like, they just completely ran away with the game. They engaged wherever the hell they wanted to. They didn't care. They didn't care. They just ran in. I mean, there was just a fight in mid lane. There's nothing up. Mixie's going in. They dive under the turret. It doesn't really matter. Yes, those fights don't go their way, but it's kind of irrelevant. They get the turret. They're in such a lead that realistically, like, they just get more items on Jason. They keep poking. To me, it was like, well, this is GT. Like, from champions that I've seen them play, this is some of their favored champions, and they have the ability in this game to play very reset-heavy team fights. And early on, you got Hoy's getting that kill. Mixie did pick up a few kills. Early got, I think it was 4-on-1 at one point. But then they just make a couple, and they are really silly mistakes. I mean, these aren't forced errors. These aren't like, oh well, Forthwall made us do this. It's like Nippler decides to go in and kill himself onto Fade, and that was what he did. Let's not be about the bush here. He dashed into a Jace.
But it was, I respect the idea for it, but it's not worth flipping the game over, right? Like, sure, you get the shutdown onto your Shen. Who gives a toss? Now you don't have Shen for the fight. You can just force the engage in mid lane.
Well, what happens is no Shen ult, so the Herald is now a 4v4 at the best, and then Fade can start walking up maybe. So it's a 4v4. You don't have that Shen to keep your Zeri alive, so that doesn't go your way. Forth will then take control of the game, and there's one fight in mid lane where you look like you've picked the Kai'Sa, but you just don't play around Zeri having ultimate.
Mixie just kind of right-clicked on the Kai'Sa in that fight and ends up wading through 4 members, just gets taken down before they can find that burst. Well, we're going to have to see how they adapt heading into Game 2. We're going to be heading to a quick break. Of course, it is Fearless Draft. As we mentioned many times during that game, it's going to have to be something different from Gran Turismo. Maybe maybe something that can capitalize on those explosive kills in the early game a little bit better, because they were able to find some advantage, but
I just want to quickly say before we do go to break, I think they should be playing around Hoys.
yeah.
I think this guy is really good. Really good. Every time I've seen him play when he was on, well, what is now Gran Turismo was Verdant Bloom as well, then ex-Verdant, now Gran Turismo. I think this guy is someone you can put investment into and he can perform. So yes, the Ezreal might be banned against him, the Zeri's going to be gone now, but I think realistically, you had a kind of recipe for success in this game, but I think you need to be prioritizing, maybe, listen, don't let them second phase ban Ornn. Take Ornn for Nippler on R3 or something. Just go, listen, what else are we going to play weak side into this guy? Just take Ornn early and just sacrifice that lane. You have to. I mean, it doesn't matter. If you take Ornn on R3, you can ban out those counters, ban out that Fura. So I want to be seeing them do that. I want to see Hoy's pop off, because I think that's what he needs to be doing. They need to be playing. I don't understand. They have a carry in the bot lane. Play around him.
Well, we'll have to see in just a couple of minutes. Don't go anywhere. Gran Turismo, they aren't eliminated if they lose this match. They are going to have to go up against the winner of Ruddy and Veneer, so we might see a rematch coming through there. But we'll have to see in a couple of minutes. Don't go anywhere at all. Hello everyone and welcome back to the stream. We're here for game 2, Fourth Wall versus Gran Turismo. After we saw some good stuff out of Gran Turismo in the last game, saw them get those couple of early game leads, but just mid-game decision making letting them down.
Just not where, like, I think maybe what we saw against Roddy was what we should have expected from them coming into this series. I thought maybe it was Roddy dragging them down to some really gritty, kind of mechanically demanding, but not very macro intensive gameplay. But instead, it looks like that might have been what I should have expected completely. Because going into the mid game in that last game, it looked like they had control. They managed to make a dive happen bot lane. Fourth Wall making a couple mistakes, but as they walked back into that turret on that dive, they got picked off, etc., etc. They weren't playing perfectly well early, Fourth Wall, and then suddenly it's an individual mistake that leads to a bad herald, which leads to a fight loss, that leads to another bad fight, which leads to another fight loss, and then the game is over, essentially. Fourth will just run away with control. And they had a comp that, again, when you have comps with Jace Kaiser, that, again, they can't play because of Fearless, again, but with these comps, once they get control, they look amazing, right? Once Jace Kaiser locks it, locks the map down, you just get poked to hell and you lose, and it feels horrible. But you can't sit there and assume that that's always going to happen. And I do think that game, GT had a comp that they could have played through, Hoys, and had Mixie, who was very strong, 4-1 at one point. They could have tried to play around their carries a little better and play around their cooldowns and maybe not make some of the mistakes that they were making.
I do want to say huge commendations to Mixie for being able to find those angles in the mid game, right? Like, we saw how many of those fights started because Mixie found a flash W or a flash charm onto Hoys in that backline. Didn't feel like Zeri ever got to do Zeri moment things. So massive accommodations to the support for finding those angles. Obviously cast as well on Jarvan, right? It felt like maybe GT were unprepared for some of that explosiveness in the fights.
Yeah. I think maybe they just weren't expecting... It's very easy for people to say, oh, well, they're now behind. Let's slow this game down, get a couple items on our Zeri and our Viego, and look to fight. But that acts as if League is a single-player game. And you need to remember that teams will just fight you. If they feel they're in control, they're not going to give you an inch, good teams. And Fourth Wall, again, as I said, I've watched them play. I think they could be a dark horse for the entire thing. I'm not even joking. I know that sounds absolutely insane. There are a couple teams in this tournament I'm looking at in other groups that I'm saying I think they could go all the way. But Fourth Wall have a roster that can do this. And I think when you're taking it to these teams, you can't be making these fundamental errors in the mid-game. But I do think you said telling me in the break that Gran Turismo have chosen to take red side, which I was saying just before the break, please do this. I think what the draft strategy for GT here is very simple in my eyes. I think
enlighten us.
I think you have to be you go for something like a jungle AD on 1-2, you take Nippler's Ornn on 3, at least a secure win. Then you ban to cover this Ornn in top lane. Get rid of that Fiora and maybe, let's say, a Camille or a Gwen or whatever you are concerned about Sleepy playing as a carry into that in the top lane. Whatever other carry he chooses, maybe a Jax or the Gwen or the Camille or whatever goes through. I do think you have to ban Sleepy's Fiora, by the way. I think that has to be gone. Then at least you have to be happy about that. And that was Nippler's best performing champion in the Ruddy series. We see here, I think, Shen was not his champ. They can't play it again, but still. And, or at least wasn't his champ in comp play, I should say. I'm not flaming him for solo queue. It's comp play here, and Shen is not someone that you really want to be playing in organized players. We see the bans are going to be the same. I think this is going to be a pretty common occurrence once people figure out how Fearless Draft works. You almost always ban the same stuff because if a champion is banned, it's not removed from the pool, right? So we do see a change here, though. Jarvan is banned because Fourth Wall can't pick it first. They believe the champion is broken. So they drop the Ezreal ban, and that is one of Hoy's best champs.
Yeah, and I mean, we saw Hoy's have some pretty good...
Tristana, one of the pro picks, finally! Yay!
Logged in here.
His champ's broke.
So we saw them absolutely crush it on an AD mid fade in the last game. Ranged AD mid, maybe looking to just run it back. Tristana obviously is still potentially flexible down towards bot lane, but you imagine Ezreal going to be picked up here on this 1-2 if you are GT. So probably heading towards the mid lane with that Trist. Lilia!
Absolutely. Lily, that is a Mixie special. Mixie, I'm just having a quick look. Yeah, so Mixie did play... Mixie did play this last series. He has looked pretty good in the past as well, so this is a Mixie favourite. I guess they're going down his tier list.
First of all, it's not going to be the Ezreal. It looks like it's going to be the Xayah. Second of all, I think the issue with this Lilia is he's now got to find something that can get Cryo pretty consistently into Trist in the mid lane. That isn't going to butcher the rest of your comp. Because Lilia obviously wants to be going zipping around the map, picking up those camps, doesn't want to have to bail out their lanes, doesn't want to have to go cover dives in bot lane. So it's going to be interesting to see what GT look towards in this mid lane. But yeah, this Xayah lock-in, one of those champions that, a little bit like Zeri, can put a game pretty much on their back if with good use of those feathers fly. But Udyr! Oh my god! Never mind. This is
one of Cast champs. I mean, on the side of GT, I think they're probably looking like Yone or something. They're gonna have to go physical damage. They've got to go for physical damage mid. I like the Varus is interesting. Is decent enough into the Xayah. There is nothing like the Ashe available. It is banned, so Varus makes a lot of sense. If I'm GT here, I'm a little bit concerned that I might have fought myself because I can't go for the Ornn or any of Nippler's champs. Like here, am I going to leave him to be blind picked? If I'm going to grab, there's not really much point in picking the support unless you think there's something really broken in the pool left. I kind of want to be taking, like, Migma does have a good Yone. That is one of his main champions. So I wonder if they're going to go towards that. The lane phase versus Tristana could be a little bit rough, but they are going to go for the Ornn. Okay, so they are going to go for giving Nippler what I've seen as his best champ, and then I assume they're going to go banning Fiora and banning, like, Camille Gwen, and then hopefully they can stabilize that top matchup a little bit. And again, I'm assuming they believe Migma has enough stuff left in the mid lane. And I do think this could be stuff like this. Maybe a Yas, not the best number of knockups. Yone, Jace. There's not that many AD champs that really match early pressure from Tristana, though.
It's going to be really interesting to see what they look for. It's going to be interesting to see what Force will choose to take off the board as well. Because, I mean, obviously, mid lane support still to be picked. The Yone very wisely banned away. I expect to see second ban will probably be Jace. I think of that one, maybe the matchups that can fight Triss a little bit better. Gwen taking off the board. Classic counter pick into Ornn, as you mentioned. And the Tryndamere banned out instead.
I mean, makes sense. Again, I think you're taking off the AD mids Migma could be looking to play. I try to remember again, I looked at him a long time ago. Tryndamere mid is a possibility. Yone makes a lot of sense of a ban. And again, we see the Fiora Gwen stuff that counters Ornn massively. I wonder what GT are going to go for here. They are going to end up going for the Jace, looking for that support counter. I like this as well. I think you should be giving Hoyes as much power as you can in the draft, and that includes giving him the best support matchup he can possibly afford. Jace into Tristana. Tristana is generally a little bit favoured in that matchup, although, again, Jace is a very strong champ. Trist is just, honestly, completely broken in the mid lane. Very few things that match her there. Right now, you have an opportunity here to take any number of top laners you want to the Ornn. They go for the Gnar. I mean, there's a lot of stuff still left on the board. Camille is still left on the board.
Any split pusher here, I think, is really good.
Really good.
You've got such a solid anchor in this mid lane. Who's moving Udyr, Varus, Alistar if this does get locked in here, right? So difficult to displace this core. It's really hard to match Triss, Gnar on the side lanes as well with the solo laners that you've chosen. I think Force Wall have got themselves a real good draft here.
I'm interested to see if they do go for an Alistar. Okay, so they're going for this Alistar blind. I assume they think this is the best support left in the pool for them. They can't go for that Rakan, for example. They played it last game. Rel is banned. Leona would be interesting for GT to play because I actually don't like Leona that heavily into stuff like Alistar. I'm surprised we're not seeing them take Rakan themselves. They have Xayah. And it's available.
That's actually a really good point. Yeah, we'll
okay, there you go. I'm being debated by hovers, but again, overall, I think GT have drafted a comp that makes the most sense for them. Unfortunately, again, they weren't able to secure stuff like Migma's Yone, which would have made their comp, I think, even better, actually. I think Yone would have been really, really nice for GT to have. But overall, they've got nice split damage. They've got that Zyrokan on the bot lane, strong 2v2. They can play through Hoyes. Nippler's on, something that he can just kind of stonewall these top lanes, this top lane on. Mixie can farm in jungle. He's playing another carry jungler. But on the side of Fourth Wall, I do agree. I think you're going like Udyr, Varus, Alistar. When you have if that's sitting around mid lane, it's going to be very strong. You then got Tristana that is going to be hard to match this Tristana on a side lane as she starts to push up. Gnar as well can look towards that Hullbreaker build, right? And he can also play on sides. Maybe Migma could look for a solo kill there with the Jace, because Jace to Gnar, there is a lot of burst damage coming out from that Jace, so can look to maybe crush the mini Yordle when he isn't in mega form. But overall, whereas GT's comp is a lot more solid, more stable, so to speak, honestly, with how Forthful played that last game, I think if they get any leads at all, they're just going to run away with it.
Yeah. I do want to point out, though, this time at least, GT does have a lot more engaged. We said that was something that they were lacking. They were lacking those tools to get their way back into the game, right? There's no real go. There was no real go button before. Now they've got bowling balls coming out. Now they've obviously got Rakan. We saw how reliable, how strong Rakan engaged can be in the previous game. They've got Ornhorn coming out as well. So I'd say maybe if they do not find these leads, right? If it does go into the game state a little bit more even, I think there's maybe a little bit more chance for them. But as we head into the game in a couple of minutes, because mid issues IRL apparently. Look at these two drafts. I still think I favor Forthful.
Okay, so if you had nameplates off, I think GT have a very, very, very solid draft. I do question about, how strong Jace is into Trist mid, but other than that, I think you've got a pretty premier bot lane with Zyra Khan. I think you've got this Ornn that is a premier top lane. Other than stuff like, Renekton, maybe Jax, I think Ornn is right up there in the higher tiers on people's tier lists of top. Probably one of the best tank top laners right now. And then you've got this Lily who can farm. She's also going to be able to. You're not going to see that many Merc Treads maybe coming out from the side of Forthful and so Lilia will get a lot more value being, you're not going to build Merc Treads necessarily for someone like Ornn, so she's going to have a lot of damage here. So they have the ability to full clear and maybe play a more stable kind of game. They had a very reset heavy team comp last time. This one is a lot more sort of front to back team fighting, maybe looking for a big sleep. It shouldn't be as chaotic of a comp. You're not looking for these reset kills. On the other side, Forthful, they almost are doing that. Tristana, she's going to be able to clean a lot of team fights with her resets. Yeah. She's going to be able to play on side lane. So if you had nameplates off, I might actually favor GT and playing a more stable game. But I think the issue is Forthful could just run away from laning phase here. Gnar into Ornn, Tristana into Jace. I'm not that confident in saying that, Varus or Alistair, because the level 1 for Alistair is pretty poor, so they can try and look for some early fights here, maybe GT in the bot lane. But then you've also going to come out with this Udyr who can just run the map, farms incredibly fast. It's Udyr into Lilia, which sometimes people, depending on who you speak to, some people favour one side or the other. There's a point-and-click stun, but Lilia is incredibly quick to run away from him. So overall, I do favour GT, but I think Forthful, with how they showed last game, what they've shown in previous games, I think Forthful have the edge here as a team.
Fair enough. They do, GT obviously have a lot more. So you've mentioned before, very cohesive draft. Maybe look to get something started at level 1 as well. FA going over that wall. I don't believe they were spotted out by Gravepast.
And this is the kind of thing you need to be doing when you go into game 2. Some kind of creativity here. This Forthful support, is he going to be caught out? They are going right now. He is walking back into the path of the Rakan. Probably just going to end up having to burn Flash. Nope, headbutts, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, just a little bit of a nothing burger there. I like what GT were going for, but yeah, you can start headbutt. It's really hard to make that play onto an Alistair specifically. I think anyone else from Forthful might have been in a lot more trouble, but just the disengage tool, especially with Phase Rush, right, makes it very safe.
Yeah, and they are going to end up spotting out the path that this Lilia is going to be taking, so Caster's going to have all the information he really needs here. And there, on the other side, though, you would argue that maybe GT also, with the wall that they managed to get down on the Raptors, will probably figure out, Cast's path pretty easy. So it could be just a very stable early game, unless we're seeing these kind of solo kills, 1v1, 2v2 kills in the lanes. You're going to see these two junglers generally farming, maybe looking for any opportunistic ganks. But other than that, it should be a pretty stable early game.
Hopefully so. We say that GT they've kind of scrapped a lot of level 3 in the bot lane, right? They've taken it every single game, and I don't think they're likely to let it up with the Zyra Khan. Will have the pushing wave. Does find the knock-up onto Gravepast, but the headbutt denies any ADC whacking.
And that trade is really nice back onto Yepe. I think, once they get this level 2, they can maybe look to go again here, GT. But past that, it's going to be a lot harder. They have got this level 2 coming up now. They haven't got it. They're just leaving it. They're backing off here full. So GT are just going to slowly push this wave in. There isn't going to be shouldn't be any dive shenanigans either. Maybe this Udyr can look for something in bot in about 30 seconds to a minute's time. Other than that, again, it's going to be one of these early games where we're going to sit there and talk, it's really interesting. Oh, lanes are really exciting. But honestly, they're just going to be farming. There's a little fight going on here. But again, Forthful aren't going to want to take too many extended trades. If there's a knockup that goes onto Grave Pass, Hoys will do so much damage that, okay, there's a pause. Exciting. But I guess this is one of those early games we could talk about anything, to be honest.
Rakan says we can't queue. Hold on.
Is
I
there
will
a
make
bug?
this.
Zaya is unable to use her feathers.
Well, I
That is
will.
really bad. That
I
kind of is
will.
important.
They have leveled up their Q. Yeah, unable to use their feathers. That'd be It might be a game remake coming through here. I think you're allowed to within 3 minutes. That's a pretty important bug on a champion like Zaya.
Yes, I don't think you'll be able to play out this game without Zaya being able to queue. If there's another pause come through, we'll have to see. But is she able to? Ah, we'll have to.
Interesting enough, she has spent mana.
Okay, there you go.
She spent mana before, so she must have cast Q. She can't cast even. I don't know. Something funky happened, but seems like all is well.
Yeah, so there's not going to be any remake or anything like that coming through. But again, I mean, this Udyr just clears a bit faster than Lilia. He is going to be bot here again within another 5 seconds, 10 seconds. He is quite low though, so he might be a bit worried about there being matched. As these are the kind of trades that it surprised me with the Jace lane. It is a bit concerning. Like Jace does get kind of bullied by this Tristana, so I have to see how Migma actually survives the kind of onslaught coming out of Trish. As there's an engage in the bot lane.
Knockout comes through. The cast gank on timer will not find anything at all.
Again, these junglers will just end up probably mirroring pathing. Does lose out on Crab here, but I mean, this fight, Mixie's waited a long time.
Ignite thrown down immediately, but Mixie just able to dodge. These two players, their names are too similar, man. I can't. Muxie just able to dodge out from that ball. Look, it's the same name. They just spelled it differently, okay? Dodge from the bowling ball. No play comes through. We did also see Migma teleport into that mid lane, matched by Fade. Both of those will be unleashed at the 10-minute mark.
And I mean, the engagement with John Yepe, but it's just
Ignite.
It's so hard to lock down this Rakan. I mean, Hoyes is just stepping forward. Mixie is not left bot lane, so Mixie is here to actually get another gank off.
In a bit of trouble, but Hoyes so low. Flash forwards, booming blows, knock up, first blood over to Grave Pass. The arrow not gonna do enough. Hepe will survive, but that was almost disastrous there for GT in the bot lane.
That was bad. Really insane fight. Mixie just decides not to actually reset, stays around the bot side, maybe looking to see if any other fights are going to come through. So they do end up cleaning it up, 1-for-1, 1 kill going over to Lilia, 1 onto the Varus. Not the worst trade, but this does mean, because Lilia stayed so long topside, Hoyes has reset and ran straight mid, maybe to cover the camps that Car should be taking right now. But Hoyes is so, level 3, doesn't end up getting it. Doesn't end up managing to steal that away. He is going to be able to get back to bot lane. Not really miss too much because the wave, unfortunately, is pushing into the Varus. So he's going to lose stuff he was going to lose anyway. But Cast is going to take away the entire jungle of Mixie. Unless there's a fight that comes through here for GT. There might be because Yepe is moving.
Yepe is moving. Cast just going to be able to walk that one out, that one. Nippler taking a bad trade. They do not know Yepe is in the area, but Lilia's chunked so much already. Cast gets that kill. Udyr early. Mega Gnar early, pretty good champs.
Yeah, it turns out if Lilia doesn't have the ability to run around at supersonic speed, she's kind of squishy. And
just not respecting the extra 5 seconds it would take Yepe to make it to that play. The burst just too much.
It's just, again, GT... that's just disrespect, really. And this is not what you can be having happening in this game, where Fourth Wall, I said, if their lanes are going well, Fourth Wall have shown they can control an entire game from start, for as soon as they get that control, they're never letting it go. And Cast here has managed to take away so much from the Lilia, who, yes, she managed to get that gank off in bot lane. But losing that many camps, and then having an issue here where Mixie just can only take Gromp, and has nothing left, unless they go for some kind of invade onto this Udyr. This Lilia is very far behind right now.
I mean, look at the XP difference, and Cast has an extra camp to pick up over Lilia as well.
It's just, it's very sad, especially because those camps on top side aren't be spawning for a very long time. She's going to have to look for something in mid, but she doesn't have Lilting Lullaby. She doesn't have a way of any kind of CC of setting up a gank, and Tristana, well, we know what she does.
Will jump in, though. Will get chunked out as well, forcing out the flash, not able to get the reset on that rocket jump. Maybe going to get run down here. No Lullaby, no worries. Mixie sends him to the Shadow Realm, either way.
Doesn't get the reset for her jump, right? Doesn't get the jump.
One auto off. One auto off.
Yeah, Migma, maybe it could have been, maybe Faye could have looked to try and flash to get the reset and then jump back to turret, but was not to be. Ends up falling in the mid lane there. 2 kills now on this Lilia, who she's going to at least be able to get her top camps now. So Cast, despite, taking those away, does end up with the biggest lead, even though he is taking this dragon because of that 300 gold going over to Lilia. And Fourth Wall have pushed in bot lane. They're going to take this Drake. I mean, it's quite a stable early game here. There's nothing really blowing open the game other than some kind of chaotic fight in bot lane. And honestly, if you're Fourth Wall, you're not that worried, even though you could create a lot of chaos and just win the game outright through lanes with the stuff like the Ornn and the Tristana.
Knockup connects. That's a massive ult on to Hoist. The corruption lands, forcing out the flash. Feathers pulled back. No level 6. Knockup doesn't quite come through, but the arrow will find its mark. Flash away by Hepe will mean they survive, but massive chains of corruption there onto Hoist. Not even cleansed away from.
Yeah, it doesn't even... Yeah, cleanse must have not been up, because it makes no sense why you're not cleansing that and running immediately away. You don't have 6 yourself on this Sire.
I think maybe they didn't even realize. I don't know, maybe it's like the only thing I can think of this, they didn't realize they were hit because Yepe looked like the intended target. And looks like they just out of range. I don't know.
Or it could just be that they knew they would be followed up by Alistair anyway and just didn't see a reason to burn that summoner.
But then they flashed.
Yeah, well, I mean, either way, it's just a lot of disrespect coming through. I was praising Hoy, saying this guy is a really strong ADC in the entire tournament. One of the strong, I would say, up there, one of the stronger ones. And he just shows disrespect. And this is the kind of these kind of kills that they go over and give too much of a lead to Fourth Wall, and they can run away with it. As Mixie is looking, doesn't end up, looking for that sleep, just hits Fade a little bit and runs off. I'd be losing, dying like this is so sad for Hoys. They can't be allowing this to happen where they're just getting these silly little kills. Like there was the silly kill on Lilia top lane where she just disrespects Nah being mega. Or now this kill in bot. You can't be having this happen if you're GT. You've got a comp that can teamfight very well, front to back very well. You've got Engage. You've got some of the more premier picks in the entire game right now with this Rakan, with this Sire, with this Ornn. Just don't be losing it through silly deaths early.
By the way, I do want to point out, Cast has managed to lap Mitsuki in the jungle here. 20 CS lead. Able to pick up that Herald as well. Has just been having a very solid Udyr game. Just very consistent, pick up my camps, take every single objective, utilize the early power of this champion. Gotta be feeling pretty good for themselves.
Yeah, and with him being in this league, we know how Udyr can be such a frustrating champion to deal with. Does get so tanky. And just, you might not have this damage coming out from GT to actually blow this guy up, let alone deal with the Tristana jumping on you, the Varus damage, maybe the Meganar jumping on you as well. So Udyr getting this lead early, he is going obviously towards that demonic embrace, is the general normal first item for Udyr. Again, he just needs, GT, they had this team fight. Please don't sit here and start losing, out on little fights that, do you really need to be taking them this early? I'm not too sure you do. And they just need to fight around, fine, when the next dragon comes up, are they going to be strong enough to fight it? Because if they aren't, they should be conceding it. If they start fighting this and they don't know how strong they're going to be, that's when you have concerns.
There's another Chains of Corruption landing onto Hepe. Cast in the area. The speed up for the Rakan will just about survive. No arrow coming out. Does come through. Reset on that cooldown as well. Maybe going to look for a dive. Both mid laners roaming down as well. Muxi and Cast pushing away Hoys and Hepe. There's no real response.
I mean, they've got to respect this. Udyr is still very strong. He's level 8. He's got a lot of CS. He is very tanky. So they should just leave this. They are going to lose these minions no matter what. They can't get covered by their mid laner or their jungler. Just not going to be there. They're also going to herald this as well. So they're absolutely breaking open this bot lane turret here for.
They get first turret of this potentially. Charge not going to be quite enough, but just a hair's breadth away. Mixie does finally manage to make their way down. Sleep connects onto 2 Drowsy here. No cleanse. Feathers fly. Flash available away from that knock-up. But Mux has already fallen from Mikma's roam. Shut down as well. Over to the Rakan onto Gravepast. And,
I mean, somehow there you see this Tristan that's going topside. The Jace managed to get some time to roam bot as well. So he picks up stuff here. The Nippler has to be careful, but he is just going to fall, right?
Yeah, just going to end up falling down. Getting something on the cross map. In the end, it's a 2-for-1, but turret plating unambiguously in favor of Fourth Wall.
I mean, yeah, they do end up losing. Yeah, they lose a couple of, die a little bit. They lose a couple of their champions off the map, but the plating going over, this bot turret as well is going to be easily broken open. even before plates fall, right? It's so low. Cast might even look to do it himself. He's literally farming this bot wave. No, he's going to leave it. Okay, he's just going to leave the minions to crash. He's not going to bother. Okay, so again, yes, you managed to get a response here by GT, but it feels like they're more responding to every play Forthal's doing rather than making any proactive plays themselves. This dragon as well, I can't imagine they're going to want to fight it with so many ultimates down as Yepe's caught again.
Chains of Corruption. Yepe is gone. Just can't be there, man.
There's a slightly lower ultimate CDs on the side of Forthal. They also used them first in the previous fight, so they're up just before anything from GT could be up as well. You see the quickness just coming online for Yepe after he died. I mean, this dragon you assume is just going to go firmly over to Forthal, and that's where GT then go, okay, what about the next one? Are we fighting that? Do we have the strength there? Because if you start saying, listen, no, we're falling too far behind, you're going to have to start looking for plays somewhere. You can't just let them take over the entire map, which is what is currently happening. 2k gold lead already. And they can play sides here, Forthal. They're going to be able to play through side lanes, and if they get lead, even play team fights.
Looks like they might be trying to make it happen now. Bowling Ball does not connect. Oh no, it's just Lilting Lullaby not quite up yet. Bowling Ball did connect onto Cast. Dragon will reset. Muxie separates Yepe away from the rest, but Charm lands. That's the explosive, but can't engage. We want to see Grey Pass will end up falling. Cast falls above the hill, but oh my god, the Mega Gnar comes in. Double Gnar, double kill goes over. Mixie trying their hardest. Will smite away the Scuttle Crab, but no smite now to contest this Drake. Surely we'll just have to back off.
Hoist have Featherstorm.
Oh.
Hoist didn't have Featherstorm came up after he died, so it's a little again. GT, your Xayah, whose only real way of being peeled here is herself. It's her ultimate ulting herself. It's crazy. I feel like again they're not that. Maybe there's no communication, but the fact that Sleeping gets that TP off, gets the 2-man Gnar into the wall, Hoist just gets obliterated. That ends up being that. I was asking, do you think you can take this fight when you don't have your ultimate? So they decide, yes, we can.
I think
but the answer is really no. It's hard without the
They were so close. They did find the massive engagement on Grey Pass, but yeah, as you mentioned, the ultimate cooldown's just not being there. Lilting Lullaby didn't even get used by Mixie. I feel like, you know how people with ADHD sometimes often like look at their clocks and like set their clocks like 5 minutes faster than they should be, so they always show up early to something. I think GT needs to do the opposite. Just take an extra 10 seconds before these fights start to wait for these ultimate cooldowns to come up, even if that means giving up the objective.
They're playing again. I understand why they're playing in the way they are. They feel maybe they just need to take these fights, but when Nippler isn't able to get anything done, he's not there with the Ornhorn, and Sleeping is there with the Gnar, you just lose that fight, especially if you don't have any kind of peel for your ADC. As Nippler here, again, he's had a much less eventful game, I would say, than even on the Shen game. He's just been sat there, been dove once, and that's about it. But other than that, right now, you see, look at Forthal. They're just running the map. They're just going to take the second Herald. GT are going to try and fight this, I'd assume, because they're going to have to.
Now. No, quickness is available for Yepe. It is for both top laners moving their way up, but Herald taken up. Knock up connects onto Miski. Flash away. Yepe forced to throw their life into the grinder just to peel for the rest of GT. And that was a bit of cinema gameplay into lose your support, into lose the Herald.
Yeah, and Forthal again, they've just got control and they're not letting up, right? They secure that second dragon, they secure that second Herald. They have to just Forthal here. I'm really impressed with how much they're able just to expand their lead and expand their lead. It went from 2k only about 5 minutes ago. It's now 4k, and they're getting turrets top lane. Fade is going to sit on this side lane. He's being covered. Obviously, there's also a Gnar chilling in that top lane as well, but they're going to be able to get so much more gold into them by the fact they can play these sides and feel a lot less scared on it. Like, this Jace doesn't really want to face a Trist on side that much. Maybe he can turn back some damage, but Trist's damage is so high. Ornn into Gnar. Gnar's going to be getting towards what you assume to be that Black Cleaver second, going to be able to start fighting that Ornn who has got that Frozen Heart. So this is just a game where Forthal, they got a few, gifted kills, let's say, early. And they're just rolling with it. They're just fighting and fighting. And they're taking the fights that GT are agreeing to, right? They agreed to that fight around the Dragon. They took that without their ultimates up. They then agreed to this fight around the Herald. And it's just harder and harder for them to make each fight happen. Yes, they have a better team fight comp, but you can't just... if you're team fighting at your Nexus turrets, you probably just lose the game anyway. So they do need to take something. I'm not too sure it's going to be those kind of fights, though.
Yeah, it's really, really difficult for GT as this game goes on. Now, of course, as I said, scaling goes on. They do have these big team fight ultimates. Maybe you can use them in numbers advantage situations, right? Try and find a couple of picks. I mean, we've seen Yepe find some good engages. Meanwhile, in the top lane, Drowsy goes down to Sleeping, forced to jump over the wall. Ornhorn comes through, Sleeping, caught out, procs at just the right time. Mixie forced to run for the hills as Herald gets summoned in mid.
And Sleeping managed to make it out there is really nice for the side of Forthwall, not giving anything over yet. This Herald crashes, takes first turret. They're going to get a second one as well. Hoyes has been jumped on here by the support of Forthwall, and
does have to do it now, comes through, but Great Pass just AoE on the side. The bomb will pick up the kill. Mixie trying to find something, but just going to get auto to death by this Trist. Jumps out on the reset. Flash of blue by Great Pass. Goes in, saves their support's life. In the end, Forthwall find 4, and GT get squat.
Absolutely nothing, right? This is, again, Forthwall are feeling it. Like, they get these leads and they're just running with it, and they're letting GT run themselves into the grinder. Literally cows to the slaughter. Like, there's nothing really here GT seem to be able to do.
I would like to remind you that Mixie and Nippler, we saw on the Play Onto Sleeping, committed both their ultimates before the fight started. Once again, it's maybe it's a desperation play, but it just feels really difficult for GT, right? It feels like, you know when they say pick your battles, I think GT probably need to do that a little bit better if they really want to come back into this game. It's so difficult, right? They're about 7,000 gold in the hole.
So it was 2k about 10 minutes ago. Yeah. Now it was 5k about 5 minutes ago. Now it's 7k, and it's assuming only going to get wider. The gold margin is going to get wider and wider unless they find a miracle fight, which they have a team fight comp as
teleport coming.
What is going to get the TP off? Oh my god!
Dodged out from there by Cast.
That was honestly well played by Nippler. I mean, if he falls there, I mean they lose the dragon anyway, right? But they look maybe for this. There's no Baron. It's 19 minutes. There's nothing here for GT to do. They just lose out on this dragon. So it's going to be soul point over to Forthwall. They're going to try and dive Sleeping, at least get something back. But he's going to go mega. He is very strong, by the way.
Flash into the wall. Mikma forced the flash away. Sleepy coming through. Sleeping will be caught sleeping. Not quite. Will be taken down there by Mitsuki. Almost able to find one on the backside, though. On the other side, Dragon is picked up. This tier 2 turret will be picked up as well. Nippler forced out. So, you know, at least finding that pick on the cross map is good, but still a net negative play there for GT.
Yeah, GT, great. They pick up the Gnar, brilliant. They pick up the top turret. That's a bit nicer. But they do end up losing turrets in bot. They end up losing the dragon as well. And they don't have Ornhorn available for a Baron, which, honestly, fourth right now, they can look for a reset. Sleepy has TP. They're going to get online. I think this Trish, you know, she's going to get her second item now once she backs. They're going to be hitting spikes here, fourth wall, even harder than they were spiking before. And they can just go and fight for this. They can just go walk to this Baron if they want to, fight for vision, and just take it. And yes, there might be a miracle steal, but you can't always prepare for that one. But in the end, Forthwall can kind of do what they want. Yepe's now resetting, and on this reset, they will just go for this Baron. Like, they can just go if they want to, Forthwall, because they can just walk in with vision, like, get vision and just go. They really don't care. There's no Ornn TP. Ornn sat bot lane.
It's very difficult here for GT. As you obviously said. Forthwall does look like they're going to push into this top lane quadrant. There is... I don't know, I want to say it's like maybe a timer. You can look for a collapse onto Grey Pass in this mid lane here, but Cast and Mixie just playing such good bodyguard duty. Jungle completely out of GT's control. Trying to pick up some vision, trying to find some way to contest this Baron, but Forthwall could just sit around. Pressure GT constantly. Cast maybe caught out. Kindergarten lands on 2, knock up onto 2. This fight is already over. Grey Pass 3 hitting 2 kills already. GT Mixie forced to run for the hills, but the arrow will try and find its mark. Not quite take out Yepe. Ornhorn finally comes through. A little bit too little, a little bit too late.
And Gnar is still pushing bot lane. Doesn't even have to commit the TP here, Sleeping. So it's a disaster. It's a complete disaster. The re-engage coming out there from the Alistair, just a bit too strong. Sleeping gets the turret. He is going to go mega. He might be able to look here for Mixie.
Oh, nice footwork there by Mixie. Will mean that Gnar does not connect. Will mean that Sleepy is a sacrificial lamb. But will also mean that Forthwall are able to pick up this big purple worm.
It's almost league by the numbers right now for
Yeah.
Forthful. They've got every objective. Yes, 7 kills have gone to GT, but that's mostly been, sleeping, getting caught on side, or maybe Grave Pass being jumped on and picked up in the fight early, but then the fight turning into Forthful's favour. But yeah, Forthful, every objective. Picked up the Baron now. They've got both Heralds early on in this game. They can just sit here, as we were saying, they've got this split comp. Yes, Gnar will not have Baron, but they have this Tristana who can sit on the side right now if she wants to. She's got TP. Dragon comes up in 2 minutes. That's going to end up being Soul.
Cast
Yes, despite
has the Medjay's, by the way. We saw in that last fight, 4 members of GT try and burst down Cast. They couldn't. He's realized he's unkillable. Might as well go for the Medjay's, right? No downside.
Absolutely
if you
right.
die.
Get the damage, I guess. Get the damage. I mean, yeah, despite what the overlay says, it is going to be Chemtech Soul, which is going to be even more annoying for GT to actually deal with. They aren't going to be able to blow anyone up once that comes online. Well, they might try for Grave Pass, but they're not killing Cast. So here, they're just going to siege. Then in a minute and a half's time, walk to Dragon, take the Soul, and then just end the game. And GT have to come up with something now. Like, right now. They cannot wait for all that stuff to be taken off the map.
But it's so hard to find the engage. This Gnar and this Udyr especially just going to play bodyguard duty. How we talked about maybe flanks from Yepe. How are you going to find the flank when you got no vision control? When once again you're shoved into your base. Massive knockup for 3 onto Nuxie. Oh my lord! Hoyes just took a massive chunk there, I think, from the arrow. Turret has fallen. Re-engaged here by Hepe. Will find some stuff onto Fade, but it's not going to be near enough. I think Grave Pass found a snipe onto Mixie in that fight as well. This Varus deals a whole hell of a lot of damage. Nice knock up there. Mixie interrupting that dash. Hepe chunked low Cast. So menacing walking up here. Throwing down that Blizzard. Nippler just chunked all the hell out. Forceful takes everything they want. Gets these 2 inhibs. Will probably just push the B button or even just walk to this Dragon because there's no way GT can contest.
I mean, you could have made a flowchart on this game of how Forthful have been playing, and it would have been completely accurate. I mean, this is no surprise off-tempo fights. There's no weird, strange skirmishes, really. This is just Forthful just showing better macro, better team play. GT, they came up with Ruddy being a Div 1 team, right? They got 2 Div 1 teams in the lower bracket, Ruddy and Veneer. They managed to come up with the win against Ruddy. They're not. I can tell you right now, this is such a hard fight back for GT to come, and they're going to have to do another win against another Div 1 team in the future, you'd assume, because this Forthful roster is looking so good, and this game is theirs, right? Chemtech Soul's going to go down. It's going to have to require a miracle fight. Mixie died that last fight without using Lilting Lullaby. He gets absolutely melted by the 2 ADCs on the side of Forthful.
It's like, how do you even burst out this Tristana, right? Such a level lead here. Fade 3 levels above the enemy jungler. It's like, sure, okay, maybe you pick off Grave Pass. I don't even think Forthful will care about taking these fights 4v5. They don't even care really 1v5. Cast just walks up with absolute impunity. Dive forwards by Fade. Mixie will fall surely on the backside. Feathers Fall comes out, but there's not enough burst. Second kill goes over. Head back onto Hoyes. More like buys. Dive forwards by Fade. Forthful barely lost any health in the play. Able to pick up 3. Able to pick up a 3rd inhibitor, and surely on this push we'll be able to pick up the game.
And after a game 1 where we thought maybe GT had stuff going for them in the early game, this game has been at Forthful, honestly, from start to finish. I mean, once they got a tiny bit of a lead, they've just ran this game over.
I see why you call these guys tournament favorites.
Okay, not favorites.
Dark horses, of course.
People look at Forthful, and I think they look at their performance out. This is obviously a different roster, right? This is a different roster than the one that played in Div 1. But I think if you watch how they play, once they get a lead, they just never give up. They never give up that lead. Yes, they dropped a game versus Veneer. That is also a Div 1 team, by the way. Let's not forget that Veneer's roster is pretty much the same roster they had in Div 1. So, I mean, Forthful look good in play-ins. They look good here. They looked good against Veneer. And the way that they play, they are good on multiple different champions. That's a big thing for me. Sometimes you see some mid laners, they only play a small subset. Fade has all the melee champs. He has that Yasuo Yone, he has an Akali. He has the Tristana we see in this game. He has everything you could possibly want from a mid laner coming out into this tournament. Like, he has all those champions on board. Sleepy can play the Nars. He has very, very good Fiora. So for me, this game just showcases, why I think Fourth Wall could go actually all the way. Unironically, I know people look at play-ins teams, they're not going to be great, but all the teams now are in. Every team from the NLC is in Aurora Cup in this group stage. And having watched other games, to me, they just look so good, Fourth Wall. They look so clean in how they play the game. Once they get that lead, that's it.
Well, they're a real pleasure to watch, so I really hope they do go far in this tournament. But alas, no more of them on this channel, at least for a while, I think, because they have now qualified to the next stage, as far as I'm aware. And it's going to be, obviously, as you said, Gran Turismo down, but not yet out. They do have one more shot against the winner of Ruddy versus Veneer, which I don't know. Look, watching this game, watching the Fourth Wall Veneer game, where the two teams seem very evenly matched. I think it'll be an entertaining series if you come along and watch it on the Sunday on this channel. But I think GT have, they've got probably a match with Veneer in their future. And
I didn't want to say anything because I love UK esports and obviously Don Jake, but Ruddy did not look particularly clean in their series versus GT. They made a lot of really sloppy mistakes, and that's just is what it is. That just happens sometimes. But Veneer did look very close to Fourth Wall, and Fourth Wall have honestly just blown GT out of the water. So Ruddy, I think it would be an upset if they beat Veneer with the roster that they put forward for Aurora Cup versus Veneer's roster that I think it's 4/5 of the roster that was playing in Div 1 last split, whereas again Ruddy's is 1/5. I think only Sheehan came back. So what would be a matchup versus Veneer? If I'm GT, I've got a few days now. I think you can review game one and say we got these leads early. Well, we got leads on carries that we wanted. Maybe we need to just clean up a couple fights around, we don't want to make these silly little mistakes around Herald or snowballing the fact that our top laner gets picked but we still fight, and then, another fight where Zeri doesn't have ult. And in this game, I think they're making a similar mistake. There's a lot of times where if you're going to blow an ult to try and pick someone on side lane and you don't even get it, you can't then try and take the fight later, because you need to make sure that when you're playing a teamfight comp, you're actually teamfighting. And I think this game, they never really had a clean, nice 5v5 teamfight they could actually try and play. And I think there was a lot of tiny skirmishes, Fourth Wall got leads, and then it was game over. And that was also because there was almost so many desperation plays where they were using these ultimates. Like the Ornn ult was so rarely used in a 5v5. And they need to be careful, I think, GT, where they just don't want to be taking too many of these kind of fights where against Ruddy they were winning them because they were just out mechanicsing. Both teams were throwing ultimates left and right. What abilities up, we don't know. There's just crazy stuff happening. And then against a team like Fourth Wall, they just punish you completely for taking these fights. And I think that shows just the ability on this Fourth Wall roster to just play very standard League of Legends and just exploit mistakes, have better macro, and they just run the game over. And I just hope GT do have a better showing when they come up against either Ruddy or Veneer.
Well, we certainly will have to see Ruddy versus Veneer. That match, as I said, going to be in just 2 days. Here, same channel, same time, same place, 5 PM. We'll also be covering that final match, obviously between Gran Turismo and the victor of that previous match. But alas, for the first time, I think in a while, it's only 2 games, a 2-game series here. Fourth Wall, very, very dominant. Obviously, managing, congratulations, on to the next stage. But unfortunately, because they were so dominant, that's going to be all from us tonight. Thank you so very much, everyone, for watching. I know we've got a couple of GT fans in chat. Thanks for sticking it out. I mean, as I said, some impressive stuff from you guys. Just not able to make it, not quite able to make it happen on the day. So thanks everyone so very much for watching. We'll catch you here. See you in just a bit. I've been CasuallyCutie.
I've been Rob, and I will see you later, I guess.
I'll see you later.